This counter-offensive by Iraqi security forces against ISIL. For the last 2 weeks, thousands of Iraqi troops, backed by Shia militias and some Sunni tribal fighters, have been locked in battle with Islamic State militants in Tikrit. There are reports Iranian military advisors are also taking part in the attack on ISIL. Even if ISIL is pushed out of Tikrit, it still has control of another major Iraqi city, Mosul. A big fight is looming there as well. And despite the United States spending more than $20 billion on the Iraqi security forces over the last few years, there are still serious questions about their ability to take back control of Iraq. Also, what about Iran's role in all of this? Why is it engaged? And with the US also involved in the offensive against ISIL in the region, is it now working with its old rival, Iran? One possible way to describe the overall situation: it's complicated. To start sorting through all of this, I'm joined now by Samir Soumadei. He is a former Iraqi ambassador to the United States, and he previously served as Iraq's representative to the United Nations. Ambassador, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We are looking at something of a very unique coalition here taking this battle to ISIL. We have the United States involved, we have Iraqi forces involved, we have Iranian-backed militias involved, and as I mentioned, we have some Sunni tribal forces involved as well. Can a coalition like this work?
Well, if you consider the enemy, you understand it. ISIL or Daesh or whatever you call it is a unique phenomenon. It is very vicious, it's anachronistic, it is violent, and it's hated by the local populations at large. So given that, they have now control over large areas of Iraq. It's a matter of all hands to the pumps. So a lot of people have come together because it is a common enemy. On the one hand, we maybe find this as an opportunity for Iraqis to unite and go forward. On the other hand, you'll find some strange bedfellows working together like the United States and Iran. You're right.
The United States has expressed some concern over the fact that this battle could descend into a sectarian battle with Shia forces taking revenge against the Sunnis. I mean, is there a danger of that happening?
Look, there are elements within the Shia so-called militia, the Hashd al-Sha'bi, the mobilization, popular mobilization force. There are elements who are nasty and are out there for revenge. But I would say the bulk of them are out there to fight ISIL, and they have found common cause with a lot of the Sunni tribes who also want to fight ISIL. On the Sunni side, there are some nasty elements. The trick here is to try to marginalize the extremists and focus on the center so that we bring the country together. I think that's the challenge facing Abadi at the moment. There are areas, of course, which have been almost cleansed of Sunnis, and the extremist Shia elements have made it difficult or impossible for the families to come back. This is not a good sign. I believe, although in these communities, I'm sure there are some extremists and some terrorists, but they should be pursued. The extremists and the terrorists should be pursued, but not the general population. I think everybody should be against collective punishment. It is situations like this which will show how the government wants to go, whether they want to go in the direction of moderation and bring the communities together and the Sunnis and the Shi'is and the Kurds together, or they want to let these centrifugal forces loose, which will at the end basically destroy the country.
Well, as you point out, there are so many forces, all with different motives. I mean, what about the long-term prospects for peace in Iraq here? Because if you have one side taking, staging revenge attacks against another, and then it turns around a few months later, the chances of reconciliation become pretty difficult, don't they?
And this is where the leadership comes in. It is crucial. The leadership can accentuate this side or accentuate the other side. The leadership can emphasize on everybody fighting together against a common enemy, dying together, spilling their blood together, and forging a unity, or they can concentrate on the negative extremist and the results of the extremist elements separating and sowing disunity. The leadership is the key, and I hope and pray that Mr. Abadi will find the strength to move in the right direction. I know his instincts is the right instinct, but he is limited, and the forces at his disposal are limited. In particular, the security forces, the Iraqi security forces, are still very weak, and they are playing second fiddle to...
Why is that? What has gone wrong with the Iraqi security forces? As we mentioned at the outset, $20 billion spent by the United States training and equipping these forces, yet they seem incapable of doing the job of securing the nation.
Indeed, that requires another interview, I think, Anand. The reason was the recruitment was wrong. There was not sufficient foundations to make sure that corruption and nepotism doesn't take root. The Iraqi security forces were a mess. They're still largely a mess. We have maybe 4 or 5 times as many generals in the Iraqi army as there are in the US army, all drawing benefits, and a lot of them are engaged in heavy corruption. It's a mess. The Americans, unfortunately, concentrated on numbers, which look good on PowerPoint presentations, but they did not concentrate on quality. The result is this collapse, and it will take a long time, and again, good leadership to rebuild.
Right, getting back to the point you just mentioned about reconciliation in Iraq. The previous Prime Minister, al-Maliki, was accused of marginalizing the minority Sunnis, of ignoring them.
Rightly accused.
Then we had Haider al-Abadi, comes to power, takes over in the Prime Minister's office. Has that changed? Is he now trying to include the Sunnis, get a more inclusive administration?
I believe so. He's made all the right noises, all the right moves so far, and he certainly has my support, and he has the support of a lot of Sunnis and Shia moderates, but he's been hemmed in. The Maliki crowd, a lot of them have done very well and made a lot of money out of the period in which he was in power, are not really giving him enough space to maneuver, and they're breathing down his neck. It will need a very adroit handling of the situation by Mr. Abadi to come out on top and to bring the country together in a balanced way, with positive and neighborly relations with Iran, because we don't want to get into another war with Iran, and with positive and cooperative relation with the United States. This is the right strategy to pursue, and Abadi is the right person. The question is whether he will have the strength and whether he will be allowed to do so.
Getting back to the battlefield, I mean, formidable challenges remain. It looks at this stage, from what we're hearing, that security forces are prevailing to a certain extent in the battle for Tikrit. But there's that other big city controlled by ISIL, that is Mosul. Are we looking at a much longer, far more fiercer battle there?
I believe so. Mosul is not Tikrit. Tikrit is a dress rehearsal for Mosul, and even that is going fairly slowly. It's a complex battle, because the terrorists hide behind